Have you ever heard that expression, when one door closes, another opens? Yeah, we've all heard that expression, right? And it was actually first coined by Benjamin Franklin. And it really had to do with the fact that we learn from our mistakes, right? If we allow for our mistakes to happen, or our disappointments, we're disappointed something didn't work out, but we allow for that door to close behind us, we move on and we're able to better experience more possibility, maybe something better, right? Well, in a spiritual way, I've seen this, and that's what I wanted to share with you today, because not only do I think that it has to do with the possibility of what could happen by learning from our mistakes, but I think it also talks to our pessimism and our negativity. In other words, when we stay in a negative mode, something has happened and we stay in a negative mode or a pessimistic idea about the thing that has happened to us, we don't allow for that next door to open. And I think that that's also key to understanding in a more spiritual way, maybe, or just even in an energetic way, how we can maybe enable the door to open, to get out of our own way so we can see when that door opens, right? Case in point, I want to tell you about an experience I had with my husband a few weeks ago. Now, first I should tell you that Johnny is not into anything woo-woo at all. He doesn't get his astrology done. He's never had a tarot reading with me. He doesn't believe in it. It's not his thing. And he, though, is a musician. He plays drums and he goes out and he plays with different, groups in town. But he was getting tired of the same old, same old, same old. So he took a break from playing with some of the musicians he'd been playing with, and he got very negative about it. And even though he was choosing to close that door, his attitude was very negative. Oh, he started worrying, who am I going to play with? How am I going to find people? And he also went through this whole thing about where are we going to practice and all the what ifs, right? And this is what we do sometimes. He's typical. I think we all do this at times. We close a door, maybe because we chose to, or we close the door, we don't choose to close the door and it happens. But rather than, thinking about it like, okay, what's next? What are some possibilities from this? Sometimes we get into the what ifs, right? We put up roadblocks. We put up difficulties that we don't even know will exist yet. Well, that's what he was doing. So I had a talk with him. He doesn't listen to me. He doesn't take my advice, but I still have an opinion or two. And so I said to him, look, just let all that go, because you never know what's going to happen. You have been wanting to take a break from all the musicians you've been playing with. Now's your opportunity. You said to the universe, I'm going to do for me what I want to do, right? Rather than suffering and constantly saying, when he came home from these bands, I really need a break. I've been playing with them for a long time. He finally made it happen. So my feeling and what I believe is that, hey, the universe is hearing you, right? You said, I'm taking care of myself. I'm finally following through on what I don't want. And although you can't really say that his idea not to play with those musicians was a mistake per se, it's kind of like that, right? Because the more he kept going back, he was making a mistake. He was saying one thing, I want to leave, and doing another. So in essence, he was kind of making a mistake for himself. All right. So he's in this negative, pessimistic place, which isn't changing because he doesn't take my advice. And we go out to hear some music. And as we're sitting there, he recognizes the bass player. He's never played with this guy, but he recognizes who he is. And they wave, and it was before the band started playing, and the bass player comes over. They have this great conversation. And the bass player says to my husband, wow, we should get together and play sometime. And there, suddenly, my husband looks at me. He didn't even have to do anything. He just had to show up at this place, this venue, to hear a band. This bass player comes over and says to him, hey, we should play sometime. Johnny was very excited. The other thing, and I looked at him, of course, and I was like, oh, you see, you do something good for yourself and the universe hears you. Sometimes things get taken care of. All right. So the next thing that happened that same time, exactly in that same venue, is that I ran into a neighbor of mine who was also at this venue listening to the same band. She lives down the street from me and like 3 houses over. We get to talking. Johnny tells her that, he might be playing with some new people. He's just connected with the bass player. And what does she say? She says, "Oh my gosh, you guys, I have a total rehearsal space in my basement. Total rehearsal space, which I set up for musicians who want to come and rehearse. And it's free. It's completely free." And I had known this woman. I had done work with her. She ran a preschool in the basement for many years, and I did hand drumming with her little preschoolers when I was still doing that, when I had that life. And I had no idea she was supporting musicians in that way. Of course, the most incredible part of the story is not only that he got 2 gifts from letting go of what he didn't want, but that rehearsal space is like down the block, like 2 houses over. I mean, it couldn't be any closer. And Johnny plays drums. So to lug his drums down there just means one quick car ride. And do you get my point? Okay, I hope you do. My point being, if I have to spell it out again, is that even though he was pessimistic about his opportunities, he did close that door. And I really believe, and I really believe that even though he went into the what ifs, which is so human, the universe in those instances took care of him, because he said, "I'm going to treat myself better," right? "I'm going to leave those situations that weren't working for me. I'm going to do something better for myself." Of course, then his humanness came in and, got him all like freaked out about the decision. But the point I'm trying to make, and I hope I'm being very clear, is that I've seen this over and over and over again. What I've seen over and over again in my life and in other people's lives, and what happened to Johnny, is that when we decide that we're changing for the better, that we're going to make choices that better serve us, I really believe the universe tries to help us. Why? Because ultimately, what I believe, and you don't have to believe this, but what I believe, what I've seen from my experience with clients, my own life, with people I love, is that the universe absolutely wants us to do better for ourselves. Whatever's controlling air quotes this, I have no idea what's going on. But I've seen it enough, this kind of the gifts that are given when we get out of our own way, the unexpected gifts, in Johnny's case, the unexpected gifts from him saying, "I'm doing something better for myself. Yes, I'm nervous about it. I'm worried." The emotional humanness of us. I'm concerned it won't work out. But he took the chance. He closed a door. And I think that I know that he himself has been changed by this experience, because what I've been telling him, supporting him closing that door, asking him to be more in line and positive about what he chose so that he could actually benefit from the fact that he closed that door, was that he now realizes that good things can happen when you make good choices for yourself. And thank goodness he has me to point that out. Anyway, thanks for listening. It was a long story. I hope you get my drift. Let me know in the comments what you thought of that. Let me know what experiences you've had about closing doors and having other doors open, and what has been your experience? What kinds of situations have you been in where you've seen the magic of the universe at work in that way? All right, take care. Thanks again for stopping by.